Alright, a few of the Paleskull items have been released. They've released the pet and shield and the armor. I did not earn the armor. You have to be crazy to donate 225 or 250,000 or more tokens. But anyway, I'm okay with that. I tend to like to use unique stuff and not just items that you hit the attack button or do, a random skill and stuff. So I'm fine with it. But the armor does make the entire set more potent. In some cases, it doubles some of the effects. So congratulations to those that got the armor. But I will, in this video, showcase the shield and the pet. Some people have called for mini full set bonuses. I think they should do one between the misc and the weapon. I think the shield, the fact that the shield and the what the pet can do can stack, I think that's kind of a bonus in of itself. But and I'll try to come up with some unique synergies here. But there's a couple of gameplay options that I've already noticed. So basically, you got the pet. It's called Flincher. It has two modes. You have a choke mode, and the choke is the same as the pet version of King Linus in potency, except this is a water pet. And then the other mode will actually eat a percentage of the choke. It does not take the entire choke. The value of that is if you have some choke, especially more than one turn, then some choke will remain, yet you gain the effect, which in this case is elemental empowerment for all elements. It does cap, it looks like, and I'll kind of show that here in a second. And then you have the shield here, the Paleskull Defender, and it will give elemental empowerment based on the number of hits you take. So you, for the effect to work, you want to be hit. What's kind of cool about the synergy here is if you inflict a choke, that means you're taking reduced damage, which means being hit may not be that big of a deal. And then you're having increased offense because you're being hit. And then to follow that up, you'll have your pet actually, if you want to do eat choke mode, will increase the elemental empowerment by itself. But what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and I just didn't inflict choke, but I got rid of the pet because I want to see what happens here. This monster will hit me several times. Let's see, 1, 2. Alright, so I blocked several of the hits. So in this case, it's 1.178. That's okay. Let's just do this a little more. For those that are curious, the Golem Assault Armor from one of the Frostvells is the strongest choke spell in the game. So it works very well. It just does just the choke. Mandate will do a split between choke and blind, and because you're inflicting blind, you might start blocking hits. Therefore, this shield will not work. So Mandate, if you're going to use this shield, is not recommended, even though it does have choke on it. So now we're up to 1.238 for one round. So the choke it's okay here. I suppose occasionally there's monsters that'll hit you for 6 or 8 times, but that's not often. You're usually between like 1 and 3 hits. And again, it's just for one round. So all in all, the shield, like as a standalone item, I'd personally give it maybe a 7, maybe an 8 at the most. When I first started testing it out, I really liked it, but the more I've started seeing the interaction, especially considering how most everyone can block now, like this previous build before almost never blocked, it probably would have been more valuable. I'm not going to argue. Implementing block in your game is pretty fun. So this is the shield. There's no toggle. You just take on 5-point-something% more damage, and then for every hit landed, you will take on damage. And if you will take on elemental empowerment. If you've noticed, I have a barrier here, 579 hit points. So you still get the elemental empowerment, even if you're hit for 0. If you noticed, most of these hits that I've endured have been for 0 damage. So keep that in mind. And then inflicting choke and then having a barrier, it'll actually slow down the ability to eat through the barrier. So barriers with damage reducing effects like panics and chokes combined, or Ellie shields, are extremely strong. If you're able to do a barrier with a choke and a panic and an Ellie shield all at the same time, the combined effect is ridiculously strong. And that's one of the reasons why you probably don't need endurance if you're going to try to go that route, because you're able to, not take a lot of damage. Alright, so here I'm going to go ahead and flee here. Here, let me just give myself some SP, and then I'll flee. So that's the shield by itself, and I did want to showcase it in Necromancer to kind of demonstrate the hit point barriers and stuff. Alright, here we go with this again. Alright, so we have 90% water. So I'm going to bring out the flincher, and we're going to do... Alright, so this is going to be choke mode. So I'm just going to do something else, and this will be versus 90% water. It will increase in power as water resistance grows. It actually endured that time. I think at 100% it'll be down there in the 60s. If all hits land, that's 83 there. So as you can see, you basically have choke mode there. Let's see what we can get this time. Same number. Alright, let's flee this time. So now you want to be able to eat choke. See, it was 0 damage, and I have Ellie empowerment there. I actually learned this. Elemental empowerment boosts your healing spells as well. So that's kind of nice. Alright, so you got to click down in here, and this will... Basically, this is choke eat. So one of the things you can do is use a guest that does choke. This is one option. I think the boss that's in the void right now has a darkness guest that will actually also do choke if you don't have access to this guy here. So that's an option for you also. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to see if I can get maybe ice and water to something somewhat decent. And then... Alright, let's just do this. And then what you can do is, so it'll inflict choke, and then in this case it will eat choke. And then when you're using the shield and the eat choke ability here at the same time, those will stack. Obviously the guest is going to inflict for 1 round. So once this guy's done, it'll actually update. So now we've got 1.48, and this can grow pretty quickly to around 1.7, and then from there you'll see a noticeable decrease in the ability for it to stack. So this, we've got it to 1.48, and it's for 2 rounds. Now I got it to 1.565, and this is just basically I'm inflicting choke. It's kind of like the phase panic eat. You have your guest inflict panic, and then phase eats the panic for its effect. Here you inflict the choke, and then you eat the choke. So that's basically the cheese here. Elemental empowerment will not affect the damage of your pet and guest. So this setup might actually be best for if you were a Beastmaster but you were using like an offensive armor, or maybe you're just casting spells here. Like if I was going to cast like a damaging spell, it should receive half that boost there. And the magic attacks would, I think it's 4/3 boost. But so that's one strategy, is you're just combining the choke and the eat choke, and then you're having the stack here. I'll do this once again. So it does choke, and then it eats the choke. So the choke that the guest is inflicting in this case is below the max that this guy will eat. Now, one thing that you could do is, if you're going to go this route, you could actually do a celerity and see what happens here. So I'll just go this route here real quick. So the guest is going to go 2 rounds of choke here, which will increase its potency all the way down to 0.32. That's pretty strong. And if you noticed, the first go around it went to 0.70, and then the last one would remove the remainder. And then after being hit and whatnot, now I'm at 1.236 belly empowerment. So you could probably like spam clever disguise, and then the next round attack, and then kind of go back and forth to get your attack around elemental empowered, and then your non-attack round you could just clever disguise spam, or however you want to do it. I think you're going to get 2 rounds, so you could probably go 2 rounds. So maybe every 3rd round you would clever disguise it. If you have shield cakes, or if you just want to just use a shadow feeder. So as you can see, you just got some empowerment that could come in handy, especially with Necromancer. Anything that enhances damage is going to enhance the heals here, and then let's see here. So yeah, it's basically eating the choke that's there. Now, the way I think the way to go here, actually, instead of this route, especially if you are a mage. Here, I'll go ahead and keep this here. If you are a mage, I would recommend using the Golem's Assault spell. And then what it's going to do, I think it's up to 5 rounds, I forget the number of rounds, and it's going to increase based on light. And because it's multiple rounds, you're going to maintain some choke. And you can get rid of the guest and do something different, but in this instance I'll keep it. So I've got 4 rounds at 60. So then at 8, a little bit of choke. And if you'll notice, it's already at 1.489. So now you have this choke here. You could either do another choke and lower it and get more rounds, or from here maybe you could focus on damage. maybe you wanted just to heal yourself, so that's not bad considering there was no fear there. And then if you leave the guest with choke, it'll just continue to grow, and it'll get to about between 1.7 maybe up to 1.8 pretty quickly, and then again, like I said, it'll slow down. I can get it to over 2 if I spam bag of mixed nuts every turn. So now at 1.752. So this is starting to get pretty strong. This will actually increase it to maybe 1.8 something, as you can see. Just keeping choke pretty low. Now again, you could forego this guest. Maybe you could do a booster guest, and so now you've got elemental empowerment and a booster, followed by the choke here. That could be a route you could take. As you can see, it's 0 damage, but it's already 1 round and it's already 1.519. Obviously, when you're having packs like this, it's going to do more LE empowerment based on the shield here. So we should get an increased, I would think, maybe in the 1.7s. Let's see what we ended up with. Yeah, 1.79. And again, you could always just notice I haven't taken any damage. Granted, this is not some crazy hard monster, but so now this is 1.8. And then now I have an elemental empowerment plus this bleed here, and it'll probably do some pretty high damage. It's not too bad. Full heal my MP, and then I still have all this choke here that it's just eating and reducing its potency, the choke's potency. And then, like I said, you could always just spam this guy, and you'll get it up over 2 eventually. So basically everything that you do is going to be, at this point, will be double damage. And this guy is increasing the choke a little more to make that initial choke spell last a little longer, if you wanted to go that route. Or you could just go a different route. It's just up to you. And since I healed my MP last time with Necromancer, so yeah, I could have done bag of mixed nuts and been over 2 that time. So yeah, it's more than double damage now. And I don't have any damaging spells here, like overcharge spells or anything right here. But doing a multi-turn choke, and even though the choke gets weaker every turn, you're able to build your empowerment. So that's the trade-off, is your choke is getting weaker while your empowerment's getting stronger. Another way you could go is you could do a booster pet here, which I don't think I grabbed before I started this. Yeah, I didn't grab one. But you could do like a booster pet, maybe the generic ones, or maybe the elemental specific one if you wanted to, and you could actually have those here instead, and then it would just continue to do the same thing. But what I want to show in this instance is if you didn't want to use the shield, because the shield's gonna only add a little bit to that setup. Maybe if you wanted to play more defense but still get the empowerment, you could still cast the choke, but you're going to have the anima barrier based on the shield, which will stack on top of the one here. And I'm told that empowerments increase the barriers, which is pretty nice. So let's get this light element to a more favorable number. Alright, it's already locked me out, but I'm going to go ahead and cast it so I can get my empowerment. As long as it's more than one turn, it should be fine. So without the shield and you cast a spell, you're going to get 1.4. That's the cap if you don't use the shield. And then, so here I'll do this again, and I think it's going to go to 1.6 and then 1.7. But using this route is, I'm having greater barriers, and the monster's just not going to get through it as easily. So now we're at 1.6. So the shield is just adding to this, and how much it adds to it is literally depending on how many hits it takes. I would argue if you went this route with the Mana Defender, if you wanted to then switch out of Ornament Golem and then went with Mandate, I think at that point it's actually fine. So if you went this route, if you casted Mandate, maybe you don't use Mana Defender and then you actually go, say, like this route. So now you have Dodge Lash, and I was told, and some of you may come back and say this is not true, that Elemental Empowerment will increase Dodge Lash. So what you could do here is just spam Mandate, and then you'll eventually get enough blind to start blocking, and then you'll have increased Dodge Lash. So let's see what happens here. So I've been hit every time. So let's do Mandate and see if we can get some blinds, which also does choke. So maybe one more and I'll be able to block here. But at this point, it's going to be pointless. Alright, so let's try this next battle. Let's see if we can get some good dodge lashing with some elemental empowerments. If this is accurate, then to me, this is going to be the best case usage, is dodge lashing your elemental empowerment. So maybe instead here of King Linus, you would use a Bun Barret, and then you would supplement the lack of your other Bun Barret with the blind here. And then hopefully you'll have increased Dodge Lash. And I don't know if that's actually the case, so that's something that I need to verify with those that know. Probably block these now. See, so that was 832 to ice versus 110. So maybe it is actually affecting dodge lash amounts. So I would recommend using this a strategy with dodge lashing. Actually, you're just gonna have to forego a Bun Barret or Pig Drake in favor and cast a choke. So Mandate's gonna be your best bet because it's choke and blind. and then you're going to end up keeping some choke and then adding elemental empowerment, which will then increase your dodge lash. And then that's it for this one. Whenever the weapon and the misc comes out, I'll get those as well, and then I'll see how those look and see if I can come up with some nice little synergies there. Thanks.